Hello, and thank you for joining Get Good with Articulate Storyline, brought to you by San Diego ATD and ISBI SoCal. I'm John Morley, an instructional design consultant. So if I can help you with a project, my email address is going into the chat window right now. Now let's hear a word from our sponsors. Okay, ATD is having their monthly chapter meeting online talking about this book, Unlearning Silence, How to Speak Your Mind, Unleash Talent, and Live More Fully. And the author herself will be there, Elaine Lynn Herring. Now, this is a part of a new program called Authors 365. It makes best-selling business authors accessible to organizations of all sizes, types. Then the first Friday of next month, coming up soon, the roundtable. The article being discussed is What Flying Taught Me About Leading Change, Lessons from the Cockpit. This is facilitated by Connie Halverson. I think she's facilitated others earlier and did a nice job of that. Then the following Tuesday, again from ISPI, this is Managing Change in the Midst of the AI Storm we seem to be in the midst of right now. This will be facilitated by Mr. James Eicher, again from ISBI the very next day. This is a new series that the ISBI is putting on, AI at Work. This time they will be doing demos of Canva, Gemini, and Comingo. The host is Sarah Golden, and the guest will be Rashina McWhite. Then a month from tonight, I am back with guest speaker Daniel Canaveral. Daniel has spoken with us before, really sharp guy. He will be talking about upping the delight factor with your storyline projects, and who does not want to be delightful. And then after that, ATD gets social again with cocktails and conversation just in time for Halloween with a spooktacular. Nobody knows everything about shop talk, especially me. So this evening we are very fortunate to have Cyd Walker with us to share what she knows, and she is also sharing some the very files that she will be talking about. I'm going to put those into there's the link that can be used to download her files. And just pause the video if you need a moment to write down the link. There we are. Okay. Cyd Walker has spent over 20 years in areas from nutrition to healthcare and from the industrial sector to golf and municipal turf. She's been working in instructional and learning design since 2017 for clients including the Toro Company, Great Minds, and Mary Washington Healthcare. Cyd enjoys crafting learning adventures that really hit home, pushing folks to dive in and figure stuff out for themselves, which is certainly the best way to learn anything. And she loves giant schnauzers enough to have lived with one, which has sadly passed away. So our condolences there, Cyd. So Cyd, the rest of the hour is yours. Thank you very much for sharing your information with us.
All right, sounds good. Let me go ahead and share my screen, and I've got sound on. So really the goal today is kind of how to get started, because that's one of the challenges, right? Is like just starting something. So how to get started with gamification. And one of the things I did is I joined a program to help give me some structure around that and kind of walk through and, understand some things. So easy ways that I could apply it. So my goal today is to kind of share, kind of distill some of those tips, things that I learned down to a few core things that I think that could help most anyone get started with gamification of their learning. So one thing I look at is, when you look at your audience or the people that are going to take the course that you're creating, it's kind of like giving them an option. Would you rather A, take an information course, informational, and then take a quiz or test afterward? Or would you rather B, get started and challenge yourself with some actual practice, something that'll challenge your brain and get you to figure things out and kind of do it? So that would be the question I would ask both of you. What would you rather?
Well, I'm a fan of spaced learning, so I like to enter space some effortful recall with learning a little bit of chunk of information and then reinforce it and then get on with it.
Okay, that's good information. How about you, Bill?
Um, I guess I mean, I'm probably more, well, let me say that I feel like so the courses that I've taken have more been the option A. I guess that's what I'm familiar with. Uh, but I mean, I'm happy to go with option B. Or I mean, is this a real choice?
Well, it's just a question, right, for to kind of start the conversation. And Bill, you brought up a really good point. I think most people are used to courses that, are more information, take a test or quiz, right? And
The way it's always been done is not necessarily the best way it's been done.
right. Yep. Absolutely a great point on that too, John. And that's the point I guess we're going to chat about today, right? How to take your courses from kind of, hey, we've always been doing it this way, and how can you inject, it's not saying that that's a bad way or that you shouldn't do a course that way, but how can you change things up from time to time, depending on your audience and your content, to help challenge people and getting them to figure things out. So that's one of the core things about gamification. It's really about when you think of video games, like when we look back at the beginning slide on here, you see two kids, right? They're kind of excited. They're pointing at the computer. A lot of games maybe even are delivered via computer. And what when you think about games themselves, what they do is they get people involved right away, kind of in that action, and they kind of teach as they go along. So, those are some of the aspects that I look at is when I'm designing my courses now, how can I get people involved versus reading a lot of stuff up front? And so
Mhm.
that's one of the things that I ask myself. And I'll share some questions you can ask your subject matter experts to help pull out that information to help you design your course along that path. But when you think about this too, like when you ask someone a question, do you ever have them, yeah, when you ask someone a question, do you ever have them interrupt you? For example, like, hey, what do you think about that new lesson switching feature in Rise? Here's how that works. Versus someone, and then the person says, no, no, don't tell me, I can figure it out. Because a lot of people, they do want to figure it out. They don't always want you to tell them, here's what you do. So capitalizing on the human behavior of wanting to figure it out is a way that we can work with starting to look at how can we put some gamification aspects that aren't gimmicky, into our learning programs.
I think that's what is remembered most, what we figure out ourselves rather than what's told to us.
Yeah, I agree. Because I don't know, like if you ever have close friends or maybe a partner at home or something. No one really wants to be told what to do, right? People
Nope.
like to think, yeah, they like to figure things out, or even kids too. Like sometimes you need to have people, like you were saying, John, is people, I think people will remember more when they figure something out, especially if they make a mistake.
Yeah, because that becomes your idea. Something that's told to you is somebody else's idea, but something you
Yes.
figure out yourself is your idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and even figuring it out, right? Like it gives you figuring something out. Like when you figure something out and you're right, it's always fun to be right. Right? You really feel this sense. How do you feel when that happens? When you figure it out and it's right? Yeah,
Very
yeah.
Yep, yep.
validated.
Yeah. Validated, you're feeling good, Bill's got the thumbs up, right? So, that's that part of us that just really values that part. So it's the most effective engagement is getting people involved right away when you can. So giving them action first. In fact, Carl Kapp, have any of you heard of him?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so he's actually a professor at one of the I forget it's a university out east. I forget the actual name of it, but he focuses on how to gamify training. So that's one area that he is really strong. And so his name is Carl with it spelled with a K and then Kapp. But he recently came out with a book that's been published by ATD and it's called Action First Learning. So that's also something to check out. But so he also advocates for giving people, getting them involved, in that learning experience. So action first. So when we talked about giving people something to figure it out, but so I looked at it like, okay, how can I change the game? So how can I have my learners figure it out and then weave it in so that way I've got the delivery of the content and the assessment all in one. And I'm keeping my learners active and assessing them as I go along in the learning design versus the information first, then test method. So, in fact, I just had an experience with this working on blood culture training, right? So, looking at one of the first things I did to ask the subject matter expert is, hey, what kind of errors have we been experiencing around one of the things they want to reduce? The goal is to reduce contamination. So, what are the errors that have been happening around contamination? Where are the most problems happening? So I find out that information and then I weave it into more of a story design. Hey, you showed up for your shift today and you need to do a blood draw. What are the things, the first thing that you're gonna do? So in kind of actually walking them through that whole practice and then weaving in situations that address where the errors happen and having them make decisions around that. So what I'm doing there, and then the person said at the end, they're like, well, the subject matter experts, well, don't we need some test questions at the end? And I said, no, I said the beauty in the design is that we've woven all of that in as decisions that learner is going to make as they go through this course. Oh, yeah, that's right. So, but the funny thing you'll hear from your SME is they kind of forget that, right? Because they're so used to the information and then a quiz.
Yeah, so
So
you might want the quiz on the end anyway to make sure they retain what they kind of learn along the way.
well, if your design is built, the cool thing about it is if you build it those normal test questions in
Hmm.
as a making a decision, like you're the person. Like in this situation, I gave learners a choice of avatars, right? And so they're going through that. Then the avatar is deciding, hey, what are I've got a mask and some gloves. Which of these am I gonna, choose? I said. And really, what they choose is both, right? So they make the decision, but when they flip the card, they discover, oh, I really want to choose both of these,
Hmm.
right? So they're more likely to remember that because they're making a um, more of a choice in terms of a decision versus your standard issue knowledge check with, three or four options. So, so those are different ways that you can work with designing things. So what we're going to look at today, kind of a sample, is, I wanted to create like a scenario that we could work with that, we'll be using to help, I'll help show you how I develop that. So our case scenario here is we've got some technical service representatives. So we've got people that call in to this call center and they're trying to figure out the call center is technical based, so it's based on let's use that turf example, right? So we've got customers all over the place that they help coordinate all the activities for golf courses to make sure the the lawn, the turf gets mowed properly, the irrigation is in place. That way, your customer can come there and play golf. But they have all these different machines running, right? These mowers, and they need to make sure that everything is running properly. But at times they may need to call in to a technical service desk and say, hey, I've got this problem with my mower. What do I do to make sure it's running properly. So what happens for the technical service representative is they're filling in they have software, right, that helps them record the case details. So when there's a problem that happens, we're going to record the case details. And that way, if I am the rep and I'm able to help that customer at that moment, great. But what if they need to call back the next day or two and they get a different representative? Well, the case notes need to be very clear, so that way they can be easily understood by the other representative, when they pick up that call. So our challenge here is that it's been taking longer time to solve a customer case because sometimes the case notes aren't very clear and easy to understand. So one way to remedy that is what we discovered in this situation is that the representatives need to do a better job at writing in plain language for busy readers. So I don't know about you, but do any of you ever skim emails or skim documents?
It's a necessity anymore in this day and age. Yeah. And
Right.
I think this is good advice for everybody, right? In clear language.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I wanted to kind of create our sample around something that could be useful for most anybody. So, so here's our case scenario, helping the reps write in plain language for busy readers. So what I did here is I created a very short game. It's called the Clarity Quest. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually walk through this short game, and then later I'm going to show you how we, created part of this. So I'm going to bring this full screen and hopefully you'll be able to hear. There are it's not necessary that you hear, but there are some enhancements, that make it kind of fun for the course to have some audio. So I'll bring that full screen. Can you all see that well?
Yeah, it looks great.
All right, excellent. So here we
Clarity
have,
is clear.
yeah, nice. So here we have the Clarity Quest. So our goal here is to simplify language by choosing words that clearly mean what they say. And so you have an opportunity to earn 10 points for each correct answer. So we're going to start this game. Okay, and you can earn up to a total of 60 points. There's going to be a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3 that you'll have opportunity to achieve. So we're going to go next, and we're starting with our level 1. We've got that labeled up in the upper left corner. So the goal with your gamification here is to really design your final assessment, first. Then what you do is you design like the level 1 and the level 2 to kind of be more of a simple way to kind of lead up to a more difficult level, with level 3 being your more difficult level. Okay, so here we are at level 1. So in this sentence, which word could be replaced with a simpler one?
I thought disseminate was a made-up word.
What did you say, Bill?
Oh, disseminate.
Yep, very good.
That's my choice. Disseminate is my choice.
That's a really good choice. I like it. Let's choose it. All right, plus 10 points.
Hooray.
Good job.
Hooray.
Now you can check your score, and then you see that you've gained 10 points out of 60. So now we're going to go on to our next challenge. So here, a little bit more of the difficulty level increases a little bit. So here we're going to click in the box below to select which word best represents plain language. So you see I get my little hand pointer here and I'm going to click, and then I see these different words. One is augment, one is enhance, and one is supplement. And then I can keep cycling through until I choose the word that I want. Which of these words would this make it best represents plain language for this sentence?
Enhance.
Very good. I like that
Yeah,
one.
enhance is my choice.
All right, good. Good job. 10 points. So if we check our score, now we've got 20 points out of 60. So here we're on to level 3 already. Now we're going up to we've got a longer, like almost a little mini paragraph here. So we want to select which words could be simplified with plain language. And if we look in the upper right corner, we kind of see a clue that 0 out of 2. So we're kind of looking for 2 words. So I'll give you a chance to look at this and see if you can identify 2 words that could be simplified with plain language.
I don't like adept particularly well.
You want me to select that one? Very
Hey,
good. Yeah.
okay, Bill, could you see one that could be improved?
I just want to know
Maybe
why where
streamline,
applications. Oh,
Yep. Did I hear streamline,
but
Vince?
this is, I mean, this is hard. I mean, I'm
I
sorry, Vince, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, that I just want to know why the word applications doesn't appear a fourth time, since it appears three. I mean, why not? Why not go for a trifecta?
Yeah, that's a good point, Vince. We could have streamlined that, couldn't we?
Sorry, you were
But
going to say something, Bill. I'm sorry.
yeah, that's good. I heard streamline though, right? Okay, let's. Very good.
There we go.
Yes. I mean, we hear streamline that word a lot, but that is a word that could be even better. So
So
now,
what would be a better, a simplify or
well, glad that you asked, John, because that's our next challenge.
oh,
So
here we go.
so we're gonna go to our next challenge, and now looking at the word to replace streamline, select the simplest, easiest to understand word to replace streamline out of these 3. Simplify, systematize, or normalize.
Simplify.
Simplify, definitely.
Yeah, the other two
Simplify?
sound like corporate speak.
Excellent job. 10 points. Yeah, they do, don't they? All right, so now our next challenge is to look at the best word to replace adept. So now we're going to select the simplest, easiest easiest to understand word to replace adept. Sorry, I've been up really early this morning. So we have
Very good.
accomplished, good, or well-versed.
Good.
Yeah, I
Did I
like
hear
one
that?
syllable. Fewer
All right.
syllables are better.
All right.
I mean, good is definitely the simplest, but it doesn't feel it doesn't feel like the best grammar or the best usage to me. But good is definitely the simplest.
Yeah, that's a good point. I see what you're
Well,
saying.
well versed feels to me to be kind of better English style
It
wise,
is.
but I'm not. I mean, I don't want to be contrarian, at least
Good
not too
also
much.
has a connotation of a moral judgment. Good versus bad, as opposed to good versus inept.
Yeah,
There's
right.
it has two meanings that often get crossed over.
Yeah, we're getting deep on this. Yep.
Just to compliment what William has said. So
No, that's a really good point. Yep. So, but well, if you look back at the goal, select which words could be simplified with plain language. So we did that, but what's the simplest, easiest to understand word to
Good.
replace? Yep. I agree. So, yeah,
Sid, can I just can you just talk for a moment maybe about
oh,
the mechanics of the right answer or the correct answer? Because it's making that ding,
right,
and then you're seeing the number with the plus pop onto the screen and kind of bounce a little bit, right?
right.
I mean, there is an animation there with sound,
Yes, you're
which is
right.
kind of a part of the gamification, right?
Yeah, I put that in here to kind of give it a little bit of some light, way of rewarding people.
Sure. Mhm.
Yeah. Without being too in your face. But what would you like to know around that, Bill, or what questions do you have?
For one thing, I mean, does Storyline give you different sound options? You know, different musical notes?
Yeah, honestly, with the new, if you subscribe to Storyline and get the AI feature, I was able to get that sound effect right out of Storyline AI, which was
Mm,
nice.
hmm
And here's a tip I'll tell you. Um, like I use Microsoft products, so I'm using Copilot. But what I do is when I'm really feeling lazy and kind of not full of, a lot in my brain, or feeling not less creative, I actually use Copilot and I ask it to create me a prompt that I can use in Storyline. So I said, hey, create a prompt for me for a sound effect for I briefly described this, and it came up with a nice prompt for me. I copy pasted that into Articulate AI, and sometimes I modify them a little bit, but then you get, you get like four different options, and usually one of them works, and if it doesn't, you generate another few, but yeah, it was really sweet. So that made it easy because I didn't have to go outside the application, to a different one and generate that and then kind of pull it back in. So it really did streamline the process. But then what you do behind the scenes, you trigger it, right? Like when when the user selects good, so you label your shapes behind the scenes. When the user selects good, make this +10 show up, and I animate that and then play the sound effect.
It will be nice to see how you did that when you
Yeah. And
take
that
us
actually,
behind the curtain.
yeah, and it is in the wizard file that that you're able to download. So in that file, I actually have in scene one actually contains the game as we're playing it right now. And then scene two is our practice file. But in the practice file, you'll see a before where you can actually practice doing it yourself, and then the after, and you can see all the triggers to the right that, help make stuff happen.
I am
And then
put
I did
us
my best too at labeling things too, so it'd be clear. So we did that. So now we're going to go on to any other questions on this before I move forward?
not yet.
Okay. So next one. Oh my gosh, we're right at the end. Good job, right? So then also behind the scenes, you set up the point values. So each time that +10 comes along, and adds that up, it gives them their points. Now, you can also subtract points. I did not in this game, but like because I didn't quite have time to add that piece on there, but if the learner selects the incorrect choice, you can also, choose to subtract points. People are less excited about that, but but you definitely can do that. So, it just depends on your audience and, if you're going to take the bounce out of Tigger or not. So, yeah. So that's our clarity quest. Now, what I also included in here is kind of looking at a couple samples. This one is, I'm just going to show you a few screens of this one. This one is a course I created for information security. So it's like, how do you take something that's mandatory education and make it more exciting? Because typically mandatory education is not exciting. So what I looked at here for designing this one is I have, three stories, one eerie intersection, to try to draw people in and kind of give it a little bit of cinematic elements or feel a little bit more like Netflix or, Stranger Things or whatever that might look like. And so when you enter this, you go in, and this one you type your name, so that way throughout the course too, you might have particular spots that personalizes the course for them, as they go through. So here we're kind of starting, and um, here you heard a sound effect of a phone ringing, but I did have voiceover, in all of these scenarios that I had in here, but I took it out for this demo purpose just so it would be less annoying. So here, for this course, I had three different scenarios that people participated in. And then what they do here, I'm just showing one here for this particular demo. So here we have Jane and a suspicious call. So she's sitting at her desk, her phone starts ringing, showing her number she doesn't recognize, but she answers it. So we go in and we've got Mike from, supposedly Mike from the IT support team, and detected unusual activity on your account and need to verify your identity to secure your data. Can you please confirm your employee ID and password? Right? Well, your IS department's not really going to ask you for that. But so she's smart. She hesitates, not sure of the caller's legitimacy. She knows about the importance of cybersecurity, and she's also aware urgent issues can happen. So then we go in here, and now you're given a choice, right? What could they say? So either an option is, hey, I'm sorry, I'd rather not give that information over the phone. Can you send me an email from your work address? Or, oh, wow, what kind of activity did you see? My employee number is, I'm going to give it all up. So which one do you want to choose here?
Let's give it all up.
You want to go?
Yeah. Let's select that one just to see what happens.
All right. That sounds good.
All right.
So he's excited, right? Got it. Thank you. We'll take care of it, right? And then you see the outcome. So shortly after, I notice unauthorized changes in my account and sensitive company data was compromised. The IT team investigated and found my credentials were used in a security breach, leading to a company-wide security incident. So I learned never to share my credentials over the phone. So what are we noticing here about when we make that decision? What are we noticing that's a little different here than normal, than your typical answer?
Well, basically what happened was you created a teachable moment and then you immediately paid it off.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're seeing the outcome, right? I get a chance to see the outcome of my decision. So if we went back and we took the other one, we would see a different outcome. So those are branching things that you build in behind the scenes,
the facial expression, definitely.
Yeah.
I guess she's probably not worried she's going to lose her job, but
yeah.
It's not exactly she isn't piling her stuff in the box on the desk because she got fired.
Yeah, like pulling out the file box, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing you learn is, right, never bring in more than they'll fit into one box. You just never know. So what happens in the real course is then you have the two other scenarios that you navigate, you get your teachable moments. Then you go into this eerie part, right? That eerie intersection. And so what I had to do for the mandatory ed course, they absolutely needed to report a score, to the LMS. And so, I had to figure out a way to weave in the questions, but do it in a more interesting way. So what I did here is, this is what I did. So I've got Jane here, and she's done with her workday, and she's looking forward to some transition time, and there's a new video game that she wants to try, because I needed to transition into a different environment. And so I made it into a video game, so to speak. So we have Night at the Abandoned Hospital. So I don't know if you can hear it, but I've got eerie music kind of playing in the background, kind of giving you a little sense of trepidation.
That is eerie, yes.
Yeah.
The previous eerie music was better, I think. The one for the last one.
All right, nice. So, but I needed to kind of transition to different music, right? Because I'm actually going into a video game environment. So I start my game.
It's an email from people at the hospital. Now, what are they asking me to do?
Okay, so now I get this email and it says, if you receive this email, we desperately need your help. Our hospital's in peril. We had to go into hiding. So sorry for the cryptic messages, but necessary for our survival. We left clues for you to find. Bring something to write on. When you get to the hospital, go to the lobby and find a recorded message. So it's giving them an action, right? So you can see the action first kind of happening in this whole design. Right? Like I got a situation, I got to make some decisions. Even when I get to the quiz, I'm taking some actions. So here we get, right? It's an eerie night. You receive that distress message for help at the abandoned hospital. What happened? Try the door to go inside. So I go in, I've got rain playing in the background to try to set the scene.
Nice touch.
Yeah, thanks. So I go in here and, and then verbally she would say, oh my gosh, this lobby's spooky. I've got to find the message. So find and select the radio recorder on the desk. So I'm going to select this and I'm going to hear, this is one of the AI voices from Articulate.
You found it! Something terrible happened, and we need your help to figure out what we did wrong. We're hiding because we're not alone. Somehow the Data Vorex threat came through a portal. So we hid clues for you to find, along with some questions to answer. Now, go and find the corridor.
Okay. So then as a learner, I would move around the screen, and then if I hover over here, I can see a tag that says corridor. So then I also see the hand hover, and I know that, oh, I'm going to select here. And so I go through this hallway, and now I have, I need to look for, I've got some clues down here for them. Because this was going out to like 5,000 people, I also wanted to make it a little easier for them in case some people, weren't as used to navigating, moving their mouse around the screen. Believe it or not, you've got people at different levels, right, of computer usage. So, so then I did a lot of the number 2 here, or hey, number 1 is here. So if I go here, I go in and I get one of my questions, right? So then I answer this. So what do you think the answer is?
Well, let's see if what happens if you select true.
Ooh, incorrect. So you do get a chance to try again. So then it's
Okay.
false. And good job, you respected, you got the right response. So now you go for that other question. And, I'm going to choose this one just to keep us moving along here. So we get
Found.
that right
Now I
one.
need to find the door to the control room.
Now it's directing you to go to the control room. And so you go to the control room and you've got a few more questions. So I'm actually walking them through to different rooms, and then they're answering these questions. And if you heard earlier, there's a Data Vorex creature. So if you ever seen Stranger Things, I kind of fashioned this creature after the Stranger Things creature. And so the idea is that there was a breach that happened and it actually caused this creature, to come through a portal. So he actually shows up at the end. And, but if you answer all the questions correctly, you get a chance to do the rewind effect at the end of this game and kind of the hospital goes back to normal. So, yeah, so that was, just, I won't walk you through the whole thing, but that's kind of the gist of what happens there. Okay, so one of the things I did in the storyline file here is I put the instructions kind of right on the page. So that way you can, if you walk through these instructions, you should be able to do it. They're also listed, I think on the handout that I included as well. And the handout includes some kind of high level points to think about too. So what you do here is, we kind of look at, here is like a text box, so what I'm doing here is I'm creating that sentence where we cycled the words through, how you got a chance to click and different words would show up. Do you remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the one where it's not always easy to figure out how to do that one. Like it took me a few tries to figure that out. So this, is a nice way to kind of make that happen. So what basically you're going to do is have 2 text boxes, kind of your before your sentence and your after your sentence. Okay, and then you're going to leave yourself some space here. So this is kind of like what it looks like afterward. So, and then these are the triggers that you're going to create over here, or the different variables that you're going to use. So this is what we're going to end up with. Okay, so right here, we're going to create a shape for our learners to click on and name it shape rectangle. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to go up and select insert, and I'm going to insert a rectangle here. kind of put it there. Now it's going to come in with my default color, but so one thing you're probably going to want to do for that is to format that. And what I did is I just went with no fill. And then for line color, I just did a very subtle light gray, so I could just kind of barely see that. So maybe I wanted, for our purposes, I'll maybe make it even kind of move that up, bump that up a little bit. There. So we see our little shape. Now what I do over here is, it defaults to rectangle 1. So I'm going to name that shape rectangle. That way I kind of know what it is. All right. So I've got that on there. Now, so the goal is like when the learner is clicking on the shape rectangle, you want to add a number value of 1 to a variable that you will call choice number. So because I already have those in for that second slide, my variables are already here. But if you remember, how many of you are familiar with using variables? Not as many? Okay, so what you do is you would add a project variable. I already have it in here and I called it, I think it's the first one is choice number. So that's the variable right here. Now, when you name a variable, keep in mind you don't put like spaces in there. So camel case is a good idea, where I capitalize the first letter of each word. And then that way it's a little bit easier to see. And this is a number variable. So when you put that in, you would select the plus sign and you would, put your variable name in there. You would choose what kind it is. Is it a true, false, a text, or a number? In this case, we're using number. And then the default value is 0. So that's how you actually add your variable.
Yeah, it might be good to say that a variable is kind of like a box that contains information, so that information can be used throughout the presentation, and that whatever is in the box can be changed at any time by interaction with the learner.
Yes, well said, John. So, so I'm going to create that variable on there. So that way I can add a number value of that one, as we go along. So now I create a trigger to add the value of 1 to choice number each time the user clicks the shape rectangle. So I'm going to go up here and create my trigger. And what I want to do is adjust my variable. Okay. And I'm going to select the little set word here and say add. So I'm going to add the value of 1. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to select the variable that I created, that choice number. So now I have adjust variable, add 1 to choice number when the user clicks the shape rectangle. Okay, and I've got that over here. Now, the next step is to create a variable called choice. And you insert that variable into the text box over that shape. So I already have my variable created, and that is choice, and that's a text variable because it's just a word. Okay. And so what I do with that is I create like a text box. Sometimes there we go. So I create a little text box here. And I'm going to insert that variable. So I'm going to go insert, and I'm going to reference my variable, and that is choice. And now I've got that in there. Okay. And then the other thing I do is I just make sure that my text box doesn't have like, make sure it's transparent, which it is. So then, like John was saying, I see my little area here, and then that's the text that will change when the user clicks, on the shape rectangle. Is everyone following so far? Okay.
Not really. How did you get the word choice inside the pre-existing text box?
Yeah, so what I did is I had the text box.
Right.
Okay. I'll do it up here again. And then you go insert, and then you go on the reference.
Oh, right. Got it. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Got it? And so then I was able to select which variable reference I wanted, and then it went right inside that text box.
Yeah, slick.
All right, nice. Yeah. So okay. So now what we want to do is we want to create a trigger to actually change the text. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the variable choice to value blank, right? So for me on that game I created, remember the choices were like augment, enhance, and supplement. So we're going to create a trigger for each of those, right? To adjust the variable choice to change this word choice into one of those words. Okay. So what that looks like is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to adjust variable, and I'm going to adjust which variable am I going to adjust if I want the words to change.
Well, that would be choice.
Yep, very good, because we're working with that choice word down here. So so we're going to adjust the variable to a value. And what word do you want to choose?
So what's the sentence again?
Well, if you want to do exactly, yeah, the same
Oh,
one,
yeah,
yeah,
augment.
augment. Okay. So there we go, augment. So, and then when the user clicks, now when the user clicks what? So remember when I have my shape rectangle down here, and the user is actually going to select the shape rectangle, not the text box 3. So that means that I need to go on here and I need to choose the shape rectangle. So we're going to adjust the variable choice to equal augment when the user clicks the shape rectangle. Does that make sense?
Not really. I see that you're clicking the shape rectangle.
So remember, our first instruction is to create a shape for the learners to click on and
Right,
name it shape rectangle. So when the learners click on that box, you want it to cycle through those word choices.
right.
Okay, so what's going to happen is the learner is going to click on the shape rectangle box, and then each time you do that based on the trigger, it'll change the choice word to a particular word.
Right. So the user is not yet selecting which one is cycling. We're just cycling now. So we're not
Yeah, yeah,
selecting.
we're setting it up to
Okay.
cycle. Yeah, we're kind of creating that behind the scenes.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so then what you also do is you can set this to change other stuff. So what I can do to make this faster is I can copy and paste my trigger, and then I can say set choice to a different value. So what would be the another word that you want to choose?
Sabotage.
Okay. Oh, you're gonna make me spell that, huh? Okay, I got it. All right, and then when the user clicks, I need to change that to the shape rectangle again.
Hmm.
And then, typically I would choose another one, right?
Uh,
But if we want
maybe
to,
supercharge.
yeah, if we want to make this go a little faster, we'll just make the two happen, right? Then the other thing you need to do is, let's see, when the variable changes on choice. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. So there's actually another piece to this. Okay, I forgot about that one. Okay, I'm glad I wrote my instructions, right? So now, now we need some conditions. So I'm going to adjust the variable choice to value blank, based on the words we chose. When the user clicks the shape rectangle, when the variable changes on choice number, if the number equals 1. Right? So we're going to start with 1, and then later, then you change the subsequent ones to like 2, depending on, your second word choice. And then let's see here. let's see, when we're on choice number, if choice number value is equal to 1. Okay, good. And then this one, I'm going to change this one to be when the choice number is value 2. Meaning my first click, right, it'll change it to augment. My second click, it'll change it to sabotage. So that's what why the number 2 on there, because that number 2 is the second click that the user gives that.
So each word has a number, and by clicking choice, the number is selected. The software knows the number rather than the specific word.
Right, yeah. Or it knows that to change it to sabotage if the user clicked that shape rectangle twice, then it knows to change it to sabotage. If it just and then you can also, you set it here on the last instruction that once it reaches 3, you create another trigger to tell it what to do when the user clicks beyond 3 times. And so what I did there is I set choice number to value 1 if choice number is greater than 3. That way it'll recycle through your options.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah. And so that's how we kind of set that up. And then the Martha Stewart thing is in here. So that way we've got it already done here. And then you can go over here and kind of look at, what the triggers are, what's happening over here. And then to look at the variables, you just select the variable panel and you can kind of see what's in there. I mean, I will admit, like, don't feel bad if you don't get it on your first try because it took me a few tries because you really have to kind of think through it, right? It's logic and it's like programming logic. So, it's just kind of thinking through, hey, what's my action? It's all like Boolean logic, right? Like if, then. So
Yeah, that's the nice thing about the triggers here. You are literally writing computer code without having to look at the code.
I know, isn't that wonderful? Yeah, thank goodness, right? Yeah. So over here, in our example, we just kind of went up to 2, basically 2 clicks. So, but once you do that, and then you can, well, let's see if it works.
Yeah, you can keep repeating that and go up to however many choices you would like.
Yeah, yeah. So here I am, I'm clicking and it's working.
Yeah, look at that.
So yeah, except I didn't put in the extra trigger to recycle the words. So we didn't do that yet. But it did click on my first click, I got augment, and the second click, I got sabotage. So good job, us. So then we just need, that the last trigger to tell it what to do when you get more than, your top amount of clicks. So that way it'll recycle the words. Because sometimes people want to look at the first round, right? And then they might want to look at it again before they make their decision.
Right.
So, yeah. So hopefully that gives you kind of a little taste. That was the more difficult part of creating that game. So I went in for the hard one. And then I'll show you how that's done. And now in that file you also have a copy of the game. So then you can see how I created the other level 1 and level 2 in there as well.
Yeah, I really appreciate you providing the file itself so I can take a look at that. Think through this a little
Yeah,
bit.
absolutely. Yeah. So in the file itself again has well, I'll show you kind of what that has in there. So it's called the plain language game practice file. So then the first scene is the actual game, that we played through. So then you get a copy of that. And then this is the actual practice file. But yeah, when in here, then you can see, you can go in and like Bill, you were wondering, hey, how does this trigger work and stuff? So you'll be able to go in here and see that, like for example, I put states on these buttons too. So over states down here, like I have a normal state is, this choice. And then if someone selects it, it goes to not this one. So I have a trigger for that. When user selects information that, then the state changes to not this one. So it lets them know right up front that that's the wrong choice. And then disseminate gets a green button, right? It gets a green color and a yes, good job. And then outlets, of course, is not this one too. But then you can see, and then I have things on here, add value 10. I created a variable of total score. So when the user clicks disseminate, and then I also put if disseminate equals false, because you have to ask yourself some additional questions. Otherwise, what happens is people, if they keep clicking disseminate, guess what could happen? 10 points, 10 points, 10 points, right? So then I had to put a trigger in there that to set disseminate to value true when the user clicks disseminate. And then I had to put add value 10 when the user clicks disseminate if it equals false. So right up front, like they click it once, they get that 10 points, but then it changes the value to true. And then, so if they click 10 again, click it again, then it won't give them an additional 10 points on this one.
Yeah, very good idea to anticipate human nature. States are
Yeah.
really powerful. And to get in a plug here, in December, Thaddeus Smith is going to be the
Oh,
guest
great.
speaker, and he. Oh, yeah, you know Thaddeus.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's
Well, I
going to
mean,
be.
I know of him. I mean,
Yeah,
I think he's really cool.
and he's going to be talking about different things that can be done with states. States aren't just for buttons anymore; they can be used for a lot of different things.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, like you can change, like in my other example I was showing you, you can change the state of the character, right? To have a different facial expression if the user selects a particular answer.
Yeah,
So
it's a
that's
very
pretty
good use
neat.
for states.
So, well, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, and I look forward to, I'll connect with you later, John. We'd love to be able to see Daniel's session and Thaddeus's session or
Oh
something.
yeah, Daniel's a sharp guy. He's put out some good stuff. So I hope to see
Yeah.
you again next month. And Bill, I hope you come back and visit us as well.
Okay. Yep.
All right, cool. Well, thank you both again. Thank you, Bill, for attending. Appreciate that.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Sid. Yep. Thank you, John.
yeah,
All
thank you,
right.
Cyd. Certainly appreciate your time and being so generous with sharing your file.
Absolutely. Anytime. All right. Well, I will look forward to chatting with you again, John. So
Thanks a lot and good night.